elated, but all at the same time, I always believed that it would be overturned eventually.
How did you happen to find it out?
Listening over the radio.
Sonny, do you believe this applies to your case directly?
Yes, sir, I believe that.
Sonny, what was some of the reaction of other prisoners with you in the county jail? Were most of them pretty happy also?
About as happy as I ever seen anybody. Even the ones that didn't have the death penalty was happy. They was calling over from different tanks at us, laughing and carrying on.
If the court ruled this, it would, in practical effect, abolish capital punishment.
Why?
Well, if you have a man that says he doesn't believe in capital punishment and couldn't give death, if he sits on a jury, I don't imagine he'd change his mind. He could change his mind, probably.
Would it not be possible to have a man who said he didn't like capital punishment would, in a certain case, follow the law or follow what was prescribed by law? Could he still be qualified as a juror?
He'd still be qualified. You see, there's two or three things that may not, the court, among other things, said that this didn't apply to all back cases, that each case would stand on its merits. The case in question was a case that the punishment was only life or death, had no other punishment other than life or death for this crime. Each juror that sits on our cases must say that he could give 2 years in the penitentiary for murder, could give probation for murder, and could give life or death, depending on, he has to have an open mind on the full range of punishment. That might be some distinction.
Well, the department, of course, has many of the key Great Society programs, and we're very concerned about the potential $6 billion expenditure reduction that Congress will impose in order for the tax increase to be enacted. But Secretary Cohen, the Bureau of the Budget, and the President are giving, of course, very careful consideration to preserving the key programs, so that I think that despite this very significant reduction, that we'll probably come out better than expected.
On the subject of drugs, do you think that our drug laws ought to be overhauled? Are we having increased problems?
We have serious problems. We are overhauling one of the laws this year relating to drug abuse, and I think that with this enactment, which will strengthen penalties for people who push hallucinogenic and other drugs that are abused, that in general we'll be in pretty good shape with respect to our drug laws.
Do you personally favor, for instance, legalization of marijuana? Will these things
I do not. I think that we do not know enough about the hazards of marijuana. Its use now, and it has been illegal for many years, and I think that we've created serious problems of disrespect for the law by the kind of abuse and use of marijuana that's gone on and has been condoned by a good many people.
The regional offices of the Bureau have two main functions. One of them is to collect the data that go into our various statistical programs. Probably the most familiar one is the Consumer Price Index. But we also gather information on wages, earnings, employment, unemployment, productivity, and a host of other matters that are important to the business and labor and general public in the area.
Ruling in effect do away with capital punishment?
I don't think so. I think it definitely, if it becomes final, will make it more difficult for prosecution to obtain a death penalty from a jury. In the past, the prosecution has been able to put together a jury of 12 people who all agree that they have no conscientious or religious scruples whatsoever against the infliction of death as a penalty for crime. I think what the Supreme Court has said, that to compose a jury in that way is to weigh it against the accused. I still think, however, that if a juror states flatly that he could not and would not under any circumstances consider the full range of penalty or punishment for a crime, that he still would be excludable for cause. Now, the district attorney has a number of challenges that he can use for any reason at all. If he doesn't like the juror's appearance, the way he parts his hair, or his religion, whatever it may be, he can strike from 10 to 15 of these people for no reason at all. I assume they would use these challenges against people who say they do have conscientious scruples.